This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is Not America's Sweetheart, Davian.
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane. This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Well, hello there. It is we, your almighty EMT, trapped inside an ARG. It's Erza Menagerie Tinker, and we are proud to be on Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J. And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with your almighty EMT, Erza Menagerie Tinker.
Well, hello there, James J.
How are you today?
I am doing quite well. We are very, very excited to be on. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. And could you tell us what you got coming up next event-wise?
I have some pretty interesting stuff. I will get to work a show on my birthday, which is the 23rd of November.
Oh.
And I will get to both wrestle on a show and be a referee, which that will be a first time for me.
Well, happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you. And we also are going to participate in a legitimate wrestling. So wrestling beyond entertainment. So it's like a real, almost MMA kind of fight on the 7th of December, and we're super excited about it.
Where is that going to be from? What promotion is the UFC style fighting?
IAWF. They contacted me over Facebook some while ago, and we worked out an understanding, and they're bringing me out to Ohio to take on one of their competitors.
Okay. Have you had experience? Do you have experience in that type of fighting?
I do not. To be honest, I did not have experience in any kind of athletics until I got into pro wrestling in 2022. So I'm quite the late bloomer when it comes to everything.
Well, usually, when they have those types of battles, the individuals usually have black belts, or they do Krav Maga, or they could just kill you with their finger and thumb.
True. Hopefully that is not what will transpire, but I have been working with a specialty coach who has a background in many martial arts, including Kung Fu, Jiu-Jitsu, Taekwondo, and a few others. So I'm trying to get as ready for it as I can, but I'm not sure anything can prepare me for what's going to come on the 7th of December, but we're excited for it nonetheless.
Hell yeah. And where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
You can find me on all of the social media, from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Grindr, OnlyFans. We are all over the internet. including on Pro Wrestling Tees and Brainbuster Tees if you're looking for like legit EMT merch.
Perfect. And all of the links to their social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox.
Huzzah!
Alright, well, let's get into it. You work for Primo Pro Wrestling. Can you tell us about your relationship with them?
Yes. Primo's is it is the longest running promotion here in Colorado. So when it comes to indie wrestling, they have been around the longest and have a great history of all kinds of independent wrestlers coming through here. I got to meet Effie, if you know Effie, from the likes of Bussy on like GCW.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was like in my first year of starting wrestling. I actually started with another promotion out here called Rocky Mountain Pro, and that's where I started training. And I concluded my training with Primos, and now I wrestle anywhere and everywhere that wants to book me. So.
Rocky Mountain is the one that I'm the most familiar with from Colorado.
Yeah.
Was there what kind of made you go from Rocky Mountain to Primo?
It was actually just a point of cost. I couldn't afford the quality and quantity of training that was offered and kind of expected at Rocky Mountain.
I got you.
And Primo's was better able to work with both my pocketbook as well as my availability when it comes to getting started in something like professional wrestling.
Hell yeah. And I mean, low-key, Colorado has a great list of women wrestlers in the state. There's no necessarily shortage of great names that they have as well.
Agreed. I think our women's scene out here is second to none, and I am really proud of the quality of matches that we are able to have out here, especially with promotions like Respect Pro Wrestling, which is an all-women's promotion out here in Colorado.
Now, you mentioned the next show you're going to be on. You're actually wrestling on the show and refereeing at one of the matches as well, correct?
That is correct. When I started at Rocky Mountain, I started training to be a referee, as I had no prior background in sports. I had honestly never even been to a gym before. And I started pro wrestling very late. I didn't get inside a ring or even try exercising until I was 32. And I'll be 34 this month. So.
I gotcha. So, obviously, there are some physicality that comes with being a referee, but what kind of transitions you to believe, well, I can actually get in the ring as a pro wrestler?
It was very interesting for me to kind of develop a relationship with my kinesthetics. My body was capable of things that I did not know it was capable of until I gave it the opportunity to try and do things with it that I only thought I could imagine. It was like dreamlike. Wrestling has such a captivating universe that it creates, that suspension of belief in what you're watching. It's amazing. it kind of reminds me of like video games or any other kind of escapism that helps people get by day to day. Pro wrestling is very at the core of what it is to be human, at least from my perspective.
And will this upcoming show be the first time you step in the ring as a referee?
I have worked with that specific promotion a couple of times as a referee only. This will be the first time working with them as a wrestler.
Awesome. So, getting that upgrade.
Yes, indeed. I really love wrestling for every capacity that it offers. I love to be an audience member for wrestling, as well as like a booker to a promoter to a graphic designer, a sound designer, lighting designer, wrestler, manager, valet. There is not a unimportant role in the wrestling universe.
Hell yeah. I think sometimes the pro wrestlers they sometimes forget that, and it definitely goes underappreciated sometimes.
I completely agree. I really, really do. Even on like the smallest of levels, sometimes people can forget kind of like that unity that we all share.
Right. You know, I just interviewed not too long ago a wrestler that was competing in Dubai.
Yeah.
And he was a wrestler. After he wrestled, he refereed, and he actually made the graphics and did the production side as well. So he was very much, you know, he did very much a Swiss Army knife when it came to everything on the other side of just the pro wrestling.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. So,
Swiss Army knife is definitely something I identify with. Trying to have as much like versatility as possible.
right. Well, speaking of versatility, you know, you're going into, you know, a UFC style match coming up. But you've also been a part of, and this is the actual name of the match, a no-ring slave to the gauntlet death match.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that match?
Prima's is pretty renowned in its Slave to the Deathmatch tournament. It's been going on for like 14 years now, 15 years. And I didn't know just how raw and like animalistic wrestling could be until I was on camera for Slave to the Deathmatch last year in 2023. It really opened my eyes to just how close to, yeah, death, like, it changes people. I've had people come to, we just say slave. So I've had people come to Slave and say they didn't want to come to another wrestling show because of how wrong their perception of wrestling was when they saw deathmatch wrestling.
Right.
It's just very interesting. People cannot watch something like Slave to the Deathmatch or any kind of deathmatch wrestling without questioning their use of the word fake when it comes to pro wrestling.
Right.
There's nothing fake about it.
Unfortunately, some people will still make excuses. But what was that experience like being in that match for you? Obviously no ring, and obviously wrestlers wrestle in a ring. So, tell us all about that.
I had some like bar fights beforehand as well. So it helped me not be too thrown off by there being a complete lack of a ring. I mean, I ended up like really messing up my knee. I did like a moonsault off of some metal contraption that was there. And he ended up moving out of the way. And I didn't expect that to happen. So, yeah, gravity is not something that is willing to bend to my will, sadly.
Is that match wrestling something you'd like to explore in the future as well?
Absolutely. I will not be able to imagine like my bucket list of wrestling to be concluded without having a absolutely radiant crimson mask at some point in my career.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I'm a big fan of blood, and I do not shy away from it.
Okay. So this next question, if you don't feel comfortable, you could just say pass, no worries.
Okay.
You are artistic. Can you tell us about some of the disadvantages being artistic has on your pro wrestling? And on the opposite end of that spectrum, what advantages does it give you?
Like, being a part of the autism spectrum is far more it feels like a superpower far more often than it feels like a kryptonite. But it definitely can, and, I expect it to be able to continue to mold me, essentially, and pushing me out of comfort zones and beyond my understanding of myself in a given moment is important. So I think it helps me think about wrestling more artistically. Having such a background in the audience, not like the fourth wall is a concept that performers understand. And wrestling is this amalgamation that doesn't exist in any other kind of performance art, in that the audience is inherent to each match, to where no two matches have ever been the same ever. And when people convince themselves that it is scripted, having done scripts so much, like I spent almost 8 years in college to get my various degrees, and all I ever really thought it amounted to was me owing a lot of money to the government. But I've come to really see the merit in the like collaborative there is something really positive that comes from pro wrestling that doesn't come from anywhere else. In other countries, like lucha libre in Mexico is so cultural that the wrestling is so different. And I love lucha libre crowds compared to pro wrestling crowds, in that they are able to connect with the art of what's happening in a different way. And I really want to be a beacon to synergize, to like unify just humanity and pro wrestling as an art. Yeah.
All right. And I appreciate you answering the question as well. You mentioned, Lucha Libre, and we have seen a Lucha Erza in the past, no?
Absolutely.
Can you tell us about working Lucha and working under a mask as well?
I actually had my debut match with Primos in a mask. And it was a mask that I had like tuck under a sewing machine and edited slightly, but really it was a Sin Cara mask that I had purchased at a WWE event in 2021. And it is very interesting what someone is able to unlock within themselves when they're not able to like give themselves over fully to what they're doing. Like, I was thinking about what I was doing so much that the anxiety that I had going into my first match, I'll always remember, because I had never wrestled a match, but I had never wrestled a match or done anything with a mask, a full mask,
Right.
covering my entire face. It changed everything for me. I was able to focus on the two things separately, which is something I had never achieved in theater. And lucha is like, through all the luchadors and luchadoras I've met, their like real life personality is so far removed from their lucha personas, and it makes each and every one of them so larger than life. Like, the fans and the audience at lucha events, I get treated like a superhero, and it's very different when I don't have the mask and people can see me like sweating, and if I'm bleeding, they can see me bleed. There's something, it makes it so much more difficult physically, but the reward is different. It is very much different when I wear a mask and when I don't. Just very weird.
Was you able to see out of the mask? As somebody that's worn a Sin Cara mask myself, it was very difficult with the mess and all of that stuff in there.
Yes, the mesh made it insanely difficult. The mask was also not very like tight to my head, so it would move, and it would be on my head in ways to where my eyes weren't lined up with the mesh at all, and I couldn't see anything.
Well, I believe you've worn a mask since then. Have you altered it to fit your head a bit better?
Yes, I use a different mask now. It's like a pink one compared to like a white and black one.
Okay.
I still use it out in Kansas under the promotion Skill Southwest Kansas Independent Lucha Libre.
And you mentioned that you altered it sewing. Is that something you learned for pro wrestling, or is that something was that a skill you brought into pro wrestling?
I brought into pro wrestling. I have worked as like a costumer and in costume departments throughout my time in theater since I was in high school. I really like costuming and working a sewing machine or a serger or like hand stitching. I'm pretty crafty, so yeah, I've like helped wrestlers fix stuff on their gear day of, and I try and bring like my little costumer's kit with me whenever I travel.
And I bet you save a bunch on ring gear as well.
Weirdly, like I made an investment last year when I was just getting started in some like custom gear for myself, but it ended up being a poor investment, and the person kind of just stole $1,000 from me. So I kind of like make all of my gear myself, and I've never actually had any gear made for me yet.
Well, is there any plans for you that you have in your mind for new ring gear?
Oh, absolutely. I have many ideas. Have you ever played the video game Soul Calibur?
Yes.
Do you know the character Volvo?
I believe so. It's been a minute, but yeah.
It looks kind of like like an S&M type of character with blades for hands.
That sounds familiar, yes.
That is a very inspired look for what I would want for my ring gear.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about the I Quit match you had against Joan Jetson? I believe that match went 45 minutes, no?
Yes, it did. It was a pinnacle match in my career for me. It set a tone that I wanted as much out of this as I could possibly achieve. And it helped set the momentum for me to bring me to where I am now. Having traveled internationally multiple times, I'm very excited for what's to come in 2025. My plan is to be able to hopefully get down to Mexico, out to Japan, as well as work with the last promotions here in Colorado that I have yet the honor to work with.
Okay. I mean, the match, 45 minutes, that's pretty unheard of on the independent scene. Especially for somebody, that has been doing it for a couple of years. So what was that like, going into a match knowing you're going to be going for 45 minutes?
To be frank, we were given like 12 to 15 minutes. So the card is always subject to change, and I did not expect the runtime for that match to be over 40 minutes, let alone over 20. it did not feel like 40 minutes. It was such a visceral level of wrestling that I aspire towards now. I'm kind of disappointed every time I have a match, and it makes me sad. I don't ever want to step back behind the curtains after a match. I would love to be able to come out as the opening match of, Monday Night Raw and never step back behind the curtain until after the main event that I would lovingly be in.
Alright. I think it's time for Erza's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
A story from the road?
Yes, a weird, crazy, and or bizarre story that happened on the road.
When I was on tour in Canada, I was traveling with a wrestler named Type 1 Warrior, and he has diabetes, and he has like this little insulin patch on his arm, but it's like hooked up to his phone, and modern technology is so cool in that he can send his information back home to his mom, so his mom knows where his insulin levels are at and everything. And sometimes he'll just start beeping, and that means, his blood sugar is low, or maybe it's spiking or whatever. But it was really interesting to see that get utilized in a couple of matches. One that sticks out is a guy up in Canada. His gimmick was that he had like maple syrup, and he like sold syrup at the merch table and did a good job doing so. Like, people buy syrup. It was awesome. But at some point in their match between Type 1 and him, he like poured maple syrup down his Type 1's throat, and like, that's legitimately maple syrup, very sugary.
Right.
And he can't, yeah. It's like, no, he's going to start beeping. And I don't know. It was just very, very funny to see real life used in such a way. It would, yeah. I'll remember it forever.
Yeah, definitely a crazy adventure to say the least. Alright. So when I, research wrestlers, I kind of look into everything, and I try to analyze everything. And when I see the name Erza, I can't help but think Erza Scarlet from Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
If you know what that
Yes.
is. So,
that's exactly where I got it from.
Perfect. So can you tell us about your love of Fairy Tale?
The most, current season has been wonderful. The 100-Year Quest. Been loving it. It was the first time I saw, a female character that really resonated with me. And she's just such a badass. And the name is so pretty. I had never heard the name before, and I don't ever hear it after. I get called Ezra a lot, but it makes me really happy that the the origins of where Erza comes from.
Oh yeah. I'm just a big anime nerd myself, so yeah,
Yay!
it was the first thing that I thought of.
Yes.
But yeah, low-key, Orzo is my favorite character as well. I believe it's Tower of Heaven is one of my favorite arcs from Fairy Tail. So yeah.
Tower of Heaven was great.
Well, you may be a Fairy Tail fan, but you are also a big One Piece fan as well, no?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell us about your love of One Piece?
So, a big part of my wrestling character is that I am kind of like an alien, and I am trapped here on Earth from an alternate reality called Topia. And it is based heavily upon the world building that Eiichiro Oda crafts in One Piece. It opened my eyes beyond the Milky Way, essentially. And it's been really nice to be able to feel like I have somewhere to thrive that is beyond the confines of humans and Earth.
What's your favorite Straw Hat? Oh, continue. Were you not done?
Oh, no, I was done.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. What's your favorite Straw Hat?
I love Chopper. Tony Chopper is so adorable. But I am also a big fan of Monkey D. Luffy himself.
Well, yeah.
I love Nico Robin as well.
What's your favorite character outside of the Straw Hats?
I love Whoop Slap. He's like from the village that Luffy comes from.
Okay.
He's like the mayor of his village. But I'm a big fan of Blackbeard because I still have so many questions.
And what's your favorite arc?
I'm not supposed to. I love Thriller Bark. I've probably watched Thriller Bark the most. But I have really been enjoying, like, I loved Egghead. Egghead is amazing.
Okay.
And I'm really excited that they're going to return to like Fishman Island they're like remastering the anime.
Yeah, that's right. Well, currently I'm on Whole Cake Island. That's where
Okay.
in the anime.
Yeah.
But you kind of answered a question that I had coming up, and that was Driller Bark, yes or no? Because people usually go one way or the other with it. They either really love it or they really hate it. And I personally always like Driller Bark. Honestly, it's one of my favorite arcs as well.
It's so fun. But I have an affinity for zombies.
Gotcha. No, I think Driller Bark it was a really good palate cleanser after the emotional roller coaster that was Water 7, because it was the next arc after that. So, there was so much going on in there, and it was just up and down emotionally. It was nice just to have, a comedic relief from all of that.
Yes.
And I mean, it set up a lot in the future as well. I mean, obviously Brooke was the last Straw Hat until Jean Bait joined 500 episodes later.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Now, can you tell us about your love of Animal Crossing?
So, I am a very unconventional person. I quit using capitalism. So I do not use numbers as a value system. And all of it is based on growing up playing Animal Crossing because Tom Nook was the first instance of capitalism actually making sense. I was able to have housing and pay off that housing and actually own my own housing and get furniture and have neighbors that I was able to have a barter system with that was beyond the currency value within the game. It just taught me that it can make sense and it purposefully doesn't make sense here on Earth. So, yay, Animal Crossing.
What's the name of your island?
I usually go with Lon Lon, from Legend of Zelda.
Okay. And what's your island's rating?
Probably really bad because I have not played Animal Crossing in a hot minute.
What was your island's native fruit?
Peaches.
Sweet. What did you have any of the wrestling memorabilia, like the lucha masses or the ring?
Yes, and I had them on display. I didn't have all of the parts of the ring. I think I had 2 of 4.
Okay. And what was the most annoying character?
Static.
Okay, so we don't like Static.
Static doesn't like me. It's personal.
Oh, I didn't know that Animal Crossing characters hold grudges.
They do. And they haunt my dreams. Lovingly.
Alright. Can you tell us about your tattoos and if they have any significant meaning to you?
I have 3 tattoos. One is Tom Nook,
Of course.
with the significance of it being the only time when money made sense to me. And that still holds true. I have the Triforce from Legend of Zelda because it's the 3 things that I strive for most in power, wisdom, and courage. And I have a Aurora Boreas sigil of the homunculus from Full Metal Alchemist on my foot, which indicates that of the 7 deadly sins I struggle with most, it is envy.
And honestly, envy was one of the best sins in Full Metal anyway.
Right? Oh my gosh. So good.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that crossed over and translated the best from the OG to the Brotherhood was envy just being a badass. You mentioned, Legend of Zelda. Which one is your favorite game?
Majora's Mask.
Interesting. Usually that one kind of gets swept under the rug.
When I was younger, I got into theater very late in life, and behaving like other humans kind of became my coping mechanism. And so I started to wear masks from a very young age, metaphorically. And only when pro wrestling came along was I able to start taking off a mask and living without one. So Majora's Mask has a lot of significance for me.
I got you.
Especially as like an analogy for my life.
All right. Let's get into the colossal question. Let's say they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Miserlou. I forget who it's by, but I first heard it in Pulp Fiction.
Okay.
Creep by Radiohead.
Sweet.
And Spiders by System of a Down.
All right. A solid 3 picks to say the least. Now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go the casting. Who plays you, and you can't say yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Uma Thurman.
Hell yeah. Now, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you in your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
So I have like dissociative identity disorder. So it would be Anique Hedonia and Celeste, who are alters in me, I suppose. And I would love if I can't remember her name. She played Vanellope Von Sweets in Wreck-It Ralph. Sarah Silverman.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so
Sarah Silverman and Jessica Lange.
okay. Well, it's sounding like a great movie, and a blockbuster to say the least. You could pre-order the tickets now.
Yeah. Hit me up, Netflix. Let's make it.
Now onto a controversial subject: pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I wouldn't order it myself, but I will eat it.
Okay, so kind of leaning a little bit more towards anti.
I suppose.
Okay. What's your
But I'm
spirit?
not against it. I just wouldn't order a pizza like that myself.
Yeah, I get that. Um, but I kind of feel like if you won't order it, then it kind of tells you, how you sway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you right though.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
Haunter
Hell yeah. Now, we love
or
the
Dragonair.
a dragon there.
Yeah, or Dragonair. Yeah.
Okay. We love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? THUG.
I do not.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail. 'Cause a Doug can't spell. We love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show, trying to keep the memory on alive. Alright, weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical rock.
Absolutely.
Alright, so you would indeed wrestle a rock.
Absolutely. Like, growing up with shows like Ed, Ed, and Eddie taught me that some of my greatest nemeses are going to be planks of wood.
Alright, well, just for context, there's a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
Interesting.
Yes. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully in a movie and helping thousands of more human beings smile more day to day.
Alright, and what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what you are all about as a pro wrestler?
That I Quit match with Joan Jetson.
Can we find that on YouTube?
Yes, you most certainly may.
Alright, well, I will grab it from YouTube, and I will put a link to it in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview. And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom. This is a speed round, or bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Kenny Omega.
Worst wrestler.
Hulk Hogan.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Rhea Ripley.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Charlotte Flair.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Existence.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast. Squash. Fruit or vegetable?
vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit. It has seeds. Tomato logic.
Ah.
Yes. New Japan wrestler Tai Chi. His ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I feel like it depends on the cheeks. If there's more cheek to see, then the ratio should lean in cheek. If there's less cheek to see, don't be afraid to hide it.
Okay. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
About Darby Allin?
Yes.
No. About pro wrestling? Yes.
But specifically not about Darby Allin.
Not specifically about Darby Allin.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find you on social media and your merchandise?
You can find me, the Almighty EMT, Erza Menagerie Tinker, by just looking us up by name, ERZA Menagerie Tinker, as well as on Pro Wrestling Tees and Brainbuster Tees under the Almighty EMT.
And you don't have to go. You don't have to type it into your Google machines. All of the links to all their social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt.
Whoop, whoop.
Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment. But on YouTube and Castbox, this was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us every Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews, and follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
Sounds good.
For our special guest, Erza Menagerie Tinker, Coleco Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.